This is Cast of Wonders, the fiction podcast for young adults featuring stories of the fantastic. Welcome. Today we present the first part of Susan Ockey's story, Patterns. Susan spends her days working in the higher education sector and her nights, weekends and every spare minute writing short stories and working on her first novel. Susan's short stories have appeared in the magazine Words with Jam and the anthologies Words Made Flesh, Treehouse Press, and If Only You Could See Yourself, Words Just Words Publishing. Her latest story, Junction 13, There and Back Again, will appear in the Writers in the Crowd anthology, Treehouse Press, due out in July 2013. Susan regularly blogs for the webzine astronaut.com, where science fiction meets reality. You can find out more about Susan on her WordPress site, Loving Life in the Rain, at susanmayockey.wordpress.com. Check the show notes for details. Your narrators today are Alasdair Stewart and Marguerite Kenner, both familiar to anyone who's been with us for a while. And now, we've a tale to tell.
Patterns by Susan Ockey. Kate. There's no stopping Mikey in this mood. He grins at me, blue eyes bright in the moonlight, and a surge of excitement snatches at my breath. He always does this to me. It's one of the things that I love about him. Blake and Hari stride ahead, the Hulk and Spider-Man, full of restless energy. Mikey grabs my hand, and together we run to catch up. The fence is no problem. Hari flourishes his dad's wire cutters, stolen for the occasion. Mikey holds back the heavy netting while I step through, his knuckles white against the wire. The ground is ridged with the aftershock of JCB violation. Lampy shadows hint at equipment scattered around the excavation site. It's cold and damp, and I can feel my hair starting to frizz. I pick my way across what used to be the school's sports field and try to picture the site during the day. The thump and rumble of men at work, flashes of yellow, digger and men both, humped earth waiting to landslide, and that black lick of a wound in the ground, growing wider and deeper every day. But my snapshot glances taken on the way to the science block refuse to coalesce into a solid image. The shadows keep their secrets. A single arc lamp burns at the center of the site. Bright slits of light escape between the hastily erected screens that surround the pit. The boys move ahead, eager. "Wait!" I hiss. "Someone might be still working down there."
"No, they're packed up about 7.
Hari says.
3 geeks and 1 professor.
He counts them off on his fingers.
And my 5 more like.
Blake towers over the other 2 boys, a genius on the rugby pitch, but that's about it.
"Prof's got a Manx accent,"
Hari says.
"Heard him shouting and swearing at the other geeks. Real nasty."
He drawls the last 2 words and laughs.
"Must be CIA."
Mikey says, grinning behind Blake's back. Blake just grunts and puts a shoulder to one of the heavy metal screens and leaves a gap wide enough for us all to push through. Raindrop glints of refracted light outline the cab of the JCB digger abandoned on the edge of the pit. A dank, moldy smell hangs in the air, despite the earlier rain. The edges of the pit are churned up like a post-match rugby pitch. I watch the boys playing most Sundays, shouting from the touchline, urging them on. Mikey always looks for his dad in the crowd. It scares me, the way everything about him turns hard and sharp when he realizes his dad's not there, again. It's been 3 months since his dad walked out. Nobody knows where he is. I'm not walking through that. I jut my chin at the mud. Blake and Hari snigger. Mikey treats them to his signature glare, and that shuts them up. I watch him stride off towards the pit, shoulders stiff. He doesn't look back. Crap. I scowl at the mud, at my brand new Converse, at the backs of the boys as they leave me behind, and then begin to squelch my way through the mire. It's all right for Mikey. His mam gave up asking questions when he turned 16. But how the hell am I going to explain all this mud? Mikey puts his arm around my shoulders, and I lean into him. Together we look down into the pit. It's deeper than I expected. Rough blocks of gray-black stone mark a T-shape across the bottom. The shadows look solid. Is this what you dragged me out here to see? Rain mists into my face, and I rake my jacket hood up. A few old stones? Mikey places one hand on his chest and imitates the stuck-up accent of the headmaster.
This is a significant archaeological find. The remains of the original monastery built on this site in the early 15th century.
I start to giggle. He grins, clears his throat dramatically, and continues.
As you know, my family was one of the founders of this village. I can trace my lineage back to...
I can hardly breathe for laughing. Mikey has a real talent. He could be on the telly. Guess we won't be getting our swimming pool by Christmas, I say, dabbing at my eyes. Mikey snorts in disgust and moves closer to the edge of the pit, his feet slipping in the mud. Mikey, don't! He looks back, a slow grin spreading across his face.
You're scared.
There's a taunting edge in his voice, almost mean. My stomach twists and forces the words out. Just don't, all right? A rhythmic thumping makes us both look back. Blake is jumping up and down on the top of the JCB cab, a stomping, punching dance to whatever track is pounding through his headphones. Hari is pressed against the cab door, trying to force the lock. Mikey laughs out loud and runs back to clamber up the frame of the hulking machine. He's been drinking, all three boys have. His malted kiss, just out of sight of my house, had an edge of abandon to it. Just a couple of cans, he'd said to my unasked question. He kissed me again, harder, and I let him. I take a deep breath and force my wobbly knees to straighten and lock. The shouts and laughter of the three boys echo across the sports field. The three musketeers, always together, on and off the pitch. Mikey took me to see the film last week, and then sulked when I drooled over Logan Lerman. Back in his bedroom, I didn't have to try too hard to convince Mikey that he was my handsome D'Artagnan. I watch, not quite believing, as Mikey shins up the raised arm of the digger and hauls himself up to stand at the lip of the tilted bucket. Feet wedged between its blunt metal teeth, Mikey raises his arms to the sky, a black outline against the light of the arc lamp. I know he's got that "look at me" grin on his face. That's when I glance down. The arms of the JCB extend out over the edge of the pit. Every part of me clenches around the words I want to shout. Shadows shift, and suddenly he isn't there. For a second, I'm too scared to look. The harsh white light of the arc lamp picks out every detail. Mikey is lying on his side amongst the stones, his body curled up as if asleep. Black hair sprawling wet across his face. Fat rain thins the blood welling across his forehead. I bite down on the need to scream. Through my tears, I can see that he's still smiling.
The whistle signals the end of rugby practice. I'm pacing the touchline, fighting the itch to be somewhere else. Blake and Harry make a beeline straight for me and their faces are set. The rest of the guys follow the coach back into the sports hall. Wolverine! That's my name now, given in honour of my indestructible skeleton. Kate says Blake and Harry are my friends, so I smile and I say, yeah, that's me. I remember the things we did together, but it's like a story about someone else. I've been back at school the whole week and they still have no idea. Kate sneaks up behind and tries to put her arms around me and I shrug her off. Can't believe you're off the team, Harry spits in frustration. We've got the match against Hymers next week. They've got to let you play. You've got to appeal or something, Blake frowns at me. I can't meet their eyes.
No contact sports, that's what the doctor said, and that means no rugby.
Kate snaps like a pit bull, her braids swinging, beads clicking. But 6 weeks! The season will be bloody over by then. There's a pleading edge in Harry's voice, as if somehow Kate can fix this, but Kate has a let's not mess with me today face on.
Piss off, both of you. Give us a bit of space.
She punches Blake in the arm when it looks like he's going to argue, and Blake does the sensible thing. He nods and gives Harry a shove towards the sports hall. Kate squeezes my hand and forces on her "see you later" smile, and she's gone before I can say thanks. I watch her walk away. Long legs and a too short uniform skirt, moving like she owns the school, and just for a second I want to shout for her to wait for me. I've touched the web of pale scars on her knees, hidden by day under brightly patterned tights. Harry said she threw herself into the pit after me, and I remember the sound of her voice close, whispering my name over and over, and it gave me something to hold on to. The hospital was an agony of waiting. I thought, Dad has to come now. He didn't. I don't know if Mam told him what happened. I couldn't ask. I woke up to a world filled with unexpected patches of light. In houses, at church, especially around the school, though. I guess it's a sort of freaky X-ray vision. There's a pattern in the light. A green-gold dance that gets inside my head if I stare too long. I haven't figured out what it means yet. I will. I can't keep still. The itch sets me walking around the building to the back of the sports hall, and at least it's quiet here. I can feel my headache beginning to fade, the tension easing out of my shoulders. I hold my breath and wait, and there it is. That faint humming note that always comes with the light. A shoaling roll of patterns ripple across the grass, a green-gold symmetry that calls to me. I walk out into the light, and I can't stop myself grinning as my whole body begins to buzz. The corner of the building snags the breeze, and the howl of hundreds of kids at play roars across the field, and lifting my head, I realize too late where I am. The pit. Suddenly, my heart's hammering so hard it hurts. I back away from the fence, straight into the arms of half a dozen girls. The crowd around me jostling, giggling. One waves something yellow in my face.
Come on, Wolverine. Let's see you in these.
It's a pair of gold spandex leggings. I know these girls. They start to circle, eyes and teeth bright. The words I need won't come. Bodies pressed close, hands fumble at my belt buckle and pull at my shirt.
Your poor face. Let me kiss it better.
An arm locks around my neck, wetness on my cheek. I stumble under the weight of them. A turbine whine vibrates through my skull. Pain cracks across my forehead, sinks into my jaw, into the roots of my teeth, and I am going to be sick.
Go on, Sharon.
The words echo around the pack, louder and louder, and suddenly my trousers are around my knees, hands and touching and heat, and the turbine cuts off and colours explode into the silence. A flash of crimson leaves me blind, and I squeeze my eyes shut, but the colours keep coming, searing bright, gold, crimson, gold, gold, silver, crimson, gold, silver, 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 and then Kate's here. She shoves her way to my side, shouting and swearing. I open my eyes to the storm of her. Silver rages across her coffee skin. The pack scatters. A couple of the girls shout,
Selfish bitch!
But they've had their fun and regroup for a fresh hunt. The colours in my head splutter and fade. And then Kate's just Kate again. Kate's stare is full of violence. It's me she wants to shout at. She wants to punch and kick. Me. But instead, she just says,
Let's get you cleaned up.
Footsteps echo around me, silver blue, bitter in the back of my throat. I'm alone. A crimson heartbeat pulses through the walls. I start to run. A multitude of hollow sounds batter at me, challenging the hard thud in my chest. Hurry, hurry. Ruby light saturates the air. Its salt stings sharp in my eyes, my nose, my mouth. Hurry! I strain against an invisible membrane, legs and blood pumping, forcing it to stretch, to belly out. Walls curve, draw close, condense the air to solid heat. I can't. Hurry! My hands stretch out, elongated, thin to air, reaching for that crack of incandescent silver, and I have it. My fingers push and prise, opening the way. A sudden inhalation, light sucked to black, fingers snap back to solid, crack, and pop. I wake myself up, shouting, thrashing. Mam is standing in the doorway, a lumpy figure against the wash of light from the landing.
You all right, love?
She's trying to sound calm. I work up a bit of spit in my mouth and I fling the duvet back, t-shirt sweat welded to my skin. Yeah. Just a dream. The same one I've had every night. Mam fidgets on the threshold. In or out, that's what Dad would say. I rub up my throat and rasp, "Water?" She rushes off, glad to have something useful to do, and I meet her at the door, say thanks, and let her stretch up and kiss me on the forehead. Anything to get her to leave me alone. Kate's walking the path with me today. I know the shape of it now, where it turns at right angles, the short and long stretches that etch a sketch across the sports field. The pattern shimmers through the grass, dancing blade to tip, an arrow straight line wide enough for us to walk along side by side. From the corner of my eye, I catch the twitch of her fingers. She wants to hold my hand. As we near the fence around the pit, the pattern brightens. It tugs hard at the pit of my stomach. Our feet slow in unison. The tips of her fingers find mine. A sudden nagging itch spikes in between my shoulder blades, getting sharper with each step. I twist to face the schoolhouse as my stomach and shoulders begin to cramp. Hello? The word is a hard tackle that slams the breath out of me. Kate grabs my arm and the world swings upright. There's a man on the other side of the fence. Heavy built, close-cropped grey hair, hands shoved in the pockets of his yellow waterproof that says Unipsych printed across its front. Did you know that the foundations of the monastery exit the site right here, where you're standing? His voice is a nasal Manx twang. I look down at his muddy boots, at the sodden bottoms of his jeans, and see that we're standing on dull, lifeless grass. The pattern has vanished. We believe this part of the monastery extends right across the sports field, roughly where you were walking. I shuffle and try to rotate the pain out of my shoulders, but it's not going anywhere. The tug in my stomach turns into an ache, and I feel like I have swallowed a stone.
What do you mean, this part?
Kate asks. There's evidence that this, the man waves his hand to include the pit and the field, house the cells where the monks worked and studied. Over there, he turns and points towards the old schoolhouse, is the most likely place for the chapel. He laughs and adds, but I don't think your headmaster is going to let us dig up his office to find out.
You can't, anyway.
Kate faces him, squarely, chin up.
That's a protected building. It's hundreds of years old.
The schoolhouse is the headmaster's passion. He's always pounding on about history and heritage. St. Gabriel's is the oldest school in the whole of Yorkshire. That's something to be proud of, something to shove in the faces of kids from lesser schools, and believe me, we all do. The prof, it has to be the prof, narrows his eyes and then smiles again, and this time I can see that it's costing him some effort. That, he glances over at the schoolhouse, was the original grammar school, built by reusing stone from the monastery itself. You'll find that many of the older houses in the village have something from the monastery incorporated, either into their walls or their foundations. The prof takes a step forward, peers through the fence at the scars, tight and shiny, down one side of my face. You're the boy who took a swan dive into the pit. That's what you kids call it. I feel stuck, like I've sunk up to my knees in mud.
We've got to go to class,
Kate says. She takes my hand and I stumble after her. I'm Adam, he shouts. If you want to talk, I'm at the B&B in Crossover Street.
I'm curled up on Mikey's bed, watching him. Pencil and ink portraits of rugby players snarl at etchings of cyborgs and cybermen. His creations, scattered across every wall, stare down at both of us. Mikey is sitting cross-legged on the floor, sketch pad resting on his knees, head bowed in concentration. There's an intensity about him, a crackling energy gathered in the creases around his eyes, in the line of his lips pressed tight, in the urgent strokes of pencil on paper. His spiked hair dangles in his eyes, limp with sweat. I lick my lips. I remember the taste of his sweat, the feel of his hands and his breath, hot on my skin. Mikey's hands fall away from the page, the pencil held loosely in slack fingers. He arches his back and then slowly brings his focus back to the drawing. "What is it?" I ask. Mikey ignores me. He does that a lot now. Before I'd been allowed to come up to Mikey's room, his mother had insisted on a few words. She'd rambled on about how much she appreciated the way I'd stuck by Mikey, twisting her hands when she admitted that since Christmas, his other friends had stopped coming by, as if I didn't already know that. No one wanted to be associated with a retard. Mikey was different after the accident. We could all see that. D'Artagnan was gone. In his place stalked the Dark Knight, silent behind his mask. But it was the special needs teacher who'd marked Mikey as a pariah. I wanted to slap his mother for making such a fuss and forcing the headmaster's hand. So what if Mikey didn't talk much now? The teachers used to complain that they couldn't shut him up. And let's face it, Mikey never did pay much attention in class. I move to sit next to Mikey, and he turns the sketch pad so I can see. The paper is covered in a mass of random shaded blocks, all hatchings and smudges and fuzzy lines. There's something compelling about it. Shapes swim in my peripheral vision, but vanish each time I turn to look. I growl in frustration. Mikey surprises me by taking my hand and smiling.
Look again.
I stare hard, and the blocks begin to blur together. A pyramid rises slowly from the center of the page, swelling until I can see the grainy striations of its rocky face. I blink, and it vanishes.
I knew you'd be able to see it,
Mikey says. An echo of his old grin flashes across his face. What is it, Mikey? How did you do that?
I'll show you.
This time, Mikey's smile is feral. He stands and pulls me to my feet. We take the stairs 2 at a time, the front door slamming shut behind us before his mom has time to shout.
And so ends part 1 of Patterns. What is Mikey's next move? Where is he taking Kate, and what does he want her to see? Be here for part 2 to find out. Cast of Wonders is a production of Wolfsbane Publishing. The editor is Marguerite Kenner. The audio producer and host is Graham Dunlop. Artwork is by Barry J. Northern. It's released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license. Share it, but don't change or sell it. Theme is Appeal to Heavens by Alexei Nov from musically.com.